before traveling to Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, I really only knew a little about these countries. From Thailand, I only knew about Muay Thai, the martial arts. From Cambodia, I only knew about the Khmer Rouge, the mass genocide. And from Vietnam, I only knew about the Vietnamese War. So all three of those things have something to do with violence, right? So I thought Southeast Asians were going to be like rough, tough people, like ready to fight. But to my surprise, they weren't. They were like the nicest people I ever met in my life. So there's one time, I was in Hanoi, Vietnam. The city is split into two sides by a river. We stayed on one side, and the majority of like the downtown part of the city was on the other side. So I figured one day I would just walk across to the other side. So I get out, start walking, come up to the bridge, and there's the distinct sign that's a person with an X out. So I'm like, oh man, I can't walk across this bridge. So then I take out my map to look for another one. It's like, oh, all right, there's one. So then I start walking. And the further I get away from the city, like the less people I see, the less big buildings I see, just walking. So I eventually turn right so I can go look for the bridge to get closer to the river so I can find it. Walking, get this one point, then I get to this one point where there's no way to go straight. It's just a building and whatever that building was. Then there's just left and there's just right. Left goes far, empty field. Right, far, empty field. And I'm like, man, I walked all this way, can't even find the bridge. So I decided to turn back around to the back where I came. So I'm just walking back. And then this one point, this lady from across the street starts speaking to me in Vietnamese. Like, what does this lady want? I don't know her. She's like waving, and she picks up her glass of tea and points at it. She's like, come here. And just with that gesture, I'm like, all right, I'm pretty tired, so go over there, sit down. There's this other guy here. He's like the shop owner. He's sitting there as well. So they pour me a glass of tea and I'm just sitting there. She starts speaking to me in Vietnamese again. I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't know Vietnamese. And so we just sit there in an awkward silence for like 30 minutes. Then they bring out sunflower seeds. And I'm like, cool, I like sunflower seeds. So grab a handful, put it in my mouth, because that's how I grew up eating them. Then they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, what? This is how you eat sunflower seeds? And then the lady takes one, puts it in her mouth, spits it out. I'm like, I can't eat it like that. That's not efficient. So then, just sitting there in silence again. Then the shop owner, he offers me take a hit of tobacco out of his bong. I'm like, no, I can't do that. That's not gonna work out for me. So then, just sitting there, and time flew by about an hour. I felt well rested, so just said my goodbyes and started walking on my way back to where we stayed. But so my first expectation was that they were violent, ready to fight people. But this lady, she called me from across the street, and she doesn't even know me, a foreigner just walking, and she just calls me to sit down and have tea with her. That's like a crazy experience. I never thought that would happen in my life. But that made me realize that wherever you go, people are just people, right? They laugh, they cry, they work, they have families. They have families. I didn't realize that though living here in America, right? I only know my community, I only know my state, I only know my country, right? That's all I know. Never been outside of our country. But then going to Southeast Asia and meeting all the people that I met, they're just the same as us. And I like to thank all of you that made this that my realization possible. That's it.